once again. This is Nuance, and we'll be speaking of the arrest made in the murder of the United Healthcare CEO and various factors and conversations surrounding that. Of course, I'm Mike Scala, joined as always by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip hop artist in the chair of BLM Tokyo, back in the land of the rising sun. What's going on, Jay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Back in the land of the rising sun. I didn't really need to leave. I'm just realizing what, because I do everything remotely, so like I didn't really need to leave at that time, and I tried to change my ticket at the couple days before,
Yeah,
but the fee that they wanted was more than the ticket itself. So when I did it last time, I only had to pay like an extra $150 to change the ticket.
yeah.
I tried to do it this time. They were like, the first time that the person was like, it was like over $1,000. And then the second time I asked someone, they were like, it's like $2,500. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Just the fee plus you have to pay
That's everything. The fee, I think the fee and the ticket and all like
everything together to change
it's
it. Now,
it's
let me ask you this: would you be allowed to do a one-way ticket, or would they not even allow that based on? I guess because you are a U.S. citizen, so it shouldn't matter, right? They wouldn't tell you like, oh, like you have to have a set schedule in place to make your trip and back.
no, I could do a one-way ticket. I'm a resident here, so
You're a
yeah.
resident of Japan, but a citizen of the U.S.
Well, because my ticket when I went to the States was a round trip ticket coming back to here. So
Yeah,
the final destination was always here. I don't have a return ticket to go back to the States.
right. No, but I mean, if you were to travel to the states and just like if you want to avoid the fees, because let's say you don't know exactly when you want to go back to Japan, so you buy a one-way ticket to the states, and then when you're ready to go back, you buy a one-way
Yeah.
ticket back to Japan.
Yeah, I could do that.
You could do that. Okay. Would
Yeah,
it
yeah.
work though going the other way though? Like let's say you were a citizen of Japan. Could you buy a one-way ticket to the US? So would it be like, oh, hold on a second, like you have to have a return trip. You can't just stay there indefinitely.
It depends. If you have a visa,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a visa to be there, then you can do the one-way ticket.
Yeah, but the visa has a timeline on it generally, right?
Yeah, but if you got a visa to be there, yeah, it's you have a reason to be there. Like if like for you coming to Japan, you probably need a round trip ticket, but I don't even know how much they
Yeah, I would
enforce
need
it.
to get a. Wouldn't I need a visa for that as well?
No, not to visit
Okay, not
Japan.
to visit Japan. Okay.
No, so because you're a US citizen, you can come to Japan with no visa. You can just hop on a plane and come here and stay in Japan for th up to 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
I think
have
say technically, well, you know what it is. I think you don't need a visa in advance, but when you get there, you go through customs, they stamp your passport. I think that does count as a visa of sorts.
um I mean technically there is a what's called a tourist visa,
Right.
but it's just not necessary to get if you're a US citizen.
Yeah, but I thought because I gotta check my passport. I just went to Antigua recently, and they when they stamped the passport, I believe they called it a visa. It's a different thing. It's not like a whole process I had to go through to apply for
Right.
it. But I think that's what they called it when they wrote it on my passport. Like you have like a
Right.
vacation visa here, just by going through customs.
Right. So it's the way that they can know when you came in. So
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example, you can stay for 3 months, but if you stayed for 4 months and they stop you and look at your passport and they say, "Oh, well, you've overstayed your visa. You can be
right,
deported now."
right. Yeah, I was just wondering if they would be suspicious if you didn't have a two-way ticket. Would they even allow that? Would they like you can't have a one-way flight because that makes us think that you might not be trying to come back?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how much they enforce that. But if you're on a tourist visa, more than likely you need a re return trip.
Yeah, that's what I would think, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
say, listen, for price reasons or because I know I have until this date to leave, but I'm not sure exactly. Maybe I'm working or doing whatever I'm doing in this country, for this time. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to be returning yet. That's why I don't have my return flight booked. Because those fees, like you said, those fees are crazy, right? I mean, it would be one thing if you can just book the two-way trip and then easily adjust the date as needed. But as we're
Well,
seeing,
they
like
have open tickets. I
they
think they
have,
have open tickets, which are usually a little bit more expensive than regular tickets. And round trip tickets are usually a little bit cheaper than one-way tickets. Um, if you take into account each way.
right, yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah. But just being here on a tourist visa or just being here as a tourist, you're technically not supposed to be doing work because then you would have to get some sort of a work visa.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, what if you? Okay, that's interesting. Like, because in my case, I work basically wherever I go.
right,
So I'm not necessarily going to a place to work. I mean, I
right,
might be, but let's say, if I'm just going on vacation to some other country, but I'm
right.
bringing my laptop with me. I've got my emails, of course, with
You
me.
should be
So I'm
fine.
still doing work while I'm there,
You should be
even though
fine.
it's work really based in the US, right? Based where I'm at, but it's just
Right.
I'm mobile, I'm remote now. So
Yeah. You should be fine. I mean, you should be fine, I would say. I mean, technically, I think at the very technical,
yeah.
they might want people to doing that to have a type of work visa or what's that called? They haven't issued it yet, but it'd be another type of visa. But I don't think it's a I don't think it's
Yeah.
a big concern.
Right. What about people who are content creators, YouTubers, bloggers, vloggers or whatever? They
Right.
go to Japan, other countries to create content. They're gonna
Right.
just film videos, whatever, and then take them back to the US, edit them,
Yeah.
and post them. Would that, if that was their main job, let's say, if they made income off of that, would that require a work visa?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think at the very technicalist, it's supposed to be like if you're following specifically strict, but I don't think anywhere checks for that or kind of forces that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I guess nobody would really know. Like if you were just out there filming content, no one's gonna know
Yeah.
with that until you're back in the US or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think, I don't think to have to be
Yeah.
concerned with that. Is that sound like a Scala trip to Japan in the future? Is that what that sounds like?
No, no. I'm just thinking as a lawyer, I guess, especially with today's world, right? Because we think of these rigid definitions of, work
Right.
visa, tourist visa, whatever, but the
Right.
world is so fluid now. People work remotely, their computers in their pocket, you know what I mean? So
Right.
it isn't like it used to
Absolutely.
be. And I'm wondering if some of these definitions need to be updated or our standings need to be more fluid.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, we're probably pretty good on that. Like you said, content creators or people who you work from home a lot, right? So you could technically take your laptop and go anywhere you want every couple of weeks and
Right.
work and do your work. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
lot, I think the tourist visa will be fine in most places for that.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert in this. I don't really work in this area of the law, so I'm really just approaching it as an outsider who has legal training, right? So I'm interested, I'm intrigued by these things, but don't quote at me for what I'm saying as the law, right? Because, like I said, this is not my area that I focus on. But I would seem to think that if you were just moving around doing your work, you probably would be good with the tourist visa. You probably would want that work visa if you were going to work for a company in that country, right? That might be the
Right.
distinction. You know what I mean? Like if you have your
Right.
practice, your business based in the US and you're overseas, when you're doing work, yeah, you're working, but you're still technically working in the US or on a US based business or project. You know what I mean? I think there may be a little
Right.
distinction there.
Right. Right. So,
All right. Well, that is all very interesting. And I do travel a lot, mostly though domestically within the US, right? And oftentimes just for a change of scenery, I'll go down to VA or wherever, Florida, even sometimes, and I'll
right.
bring work with me. Work never leaves me entirely. So, it's just the reality of the world that we're in. And even, I guess, the reality of operating your own business, right? And it's not an employee type deal where it's like I'm putting in for a vacation. I don't really escape it. And maybe you should, if you have your own business, try to make time for yourself and say, I'm going to unplug for a while. That's all fine and good too. But you can't necessarily always do that, right? And so, especially if you want to take frequent trips, sometimes, like I said, good for changing the scenery, but you're still going to be working on some things when you're gone. And so,
Right.
that's how I move, right? So I'm thinking also how would that look, how would that work if you did that abroad, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was in the States, I was still working as well. Um, so, because I was doing everything remotely. So,
right.
yeah.
So all right. Well, speaking of not working, or I guess speaking of working, I don't know, but you tell me if this works or it doesn't work, because I almost want to take back what I said last week about rhythm and flow.
Uh-oh.
Last week I gave it a glowing review, but
Right.
the way it ended it just didn't work for me. Uh, I was big on the fact that all things considered, for it being a Netflix show, it had a certain level of authenticity in terms of hip hop culture, right? I thought, okay,
Okay.
for a casual person who doesn't really know much about hip hop culture, but is fascinated, maybe they would just scroll to Netflix and saw it was one of the top shows of the week, whatever it was. They put it on and they wanted to check it out, get a closer look at hip hop. I thought it did a pretty good job showcasing the culture. It's not going to be perfect. It's a Netflix show, highly produced. Okay. But it showed, for example, what battles look like. It showed the cipher. It showed certain MC skills that were required to meet these challenges.
Hmm.
Even the judges had some credibility, like Ludacris in particular did a really good job, in my opinion, of being a judge. He wasn't trying to use this as a platform for himself. Or if he wasn't making it about him, right? Maybe he thought it was a good opportunity for himself, sure, but he seemed to be taking care to do his job seriously as a judge and really give impartial feedback, right? And really tell not just the contestants but the audience what he was looking for as a hip hop artist, as someone in hip hop, what kind of skills he wanted to see, right? How he wanted them to rise to the level of these challenges. And so I gave him props for that. I even liked, I think I mentioned last week, Lotto. I didn't know much about her. I thought she came off likable on the show. And at least
Mm.
initially, it looked like she was looking for talent. She was looking for someone who had skill, right? And who could be a good representative of hip hop on Netflix to the extent possible, right? Well, I don't know what went on as this came closer to its
Hey,
end.
you didn't mention DJ Khaled. Did you like DJ Khaled, or
And
are you trying to be nice?
he certainly was there as well. Now, did you watch any more of this?
No, like I said, I only watched that episode with Eminem on it. I didn't watch anything else.
Okay. So the show remained entertaining, I guess, to watch, but it got frustrating for me towards the end. Now, I wasn't sure if the producers of the show were weighing in and telling the judges whom they should be picking as time went on, or if
Right.
the judges dropped the ball on this. There was
Okay.
even an episode with Remy Ma, and she, to me, was a good judge. She was a judge in a Cipher episode. And one of the ciphers had some weaker artists that particular week, but there was one rapper who did a good job on there. And I think she was vouching for him. She said, look, from what I saw, I would give it to him. But then when the decision came out, that guy was lost. He was sent home, and then you had
Mm.
people who were dropping the ball who got pushed through to the next round. And this would kind of keep repeating. You would see contestants who deserved to be there being sent home, and then ones who were really not very good, or at least fail these challenges week by week, they would continue to be there. And then you would start to see things that you would commonly see on reality TV shows. Like they really lean in on these contestants' backstories, right? And they try to make you feel sad for them, sympathy for them. Someone has his mom in jail, or someone lost a relative at a young age, whatever it is. Like I'm here to, to win this money and do this for them. And it's like that kind of thing. But that's all good, and you can gain sympathy for these contestants that way. But they were not good. That was the thing. Like they just were not good MCs. And then I'm thinking of this as, okay, if this is supposed to be representation of hip hop to the world, what kind of message is it sending the world that these whack MCs are being pushed through to the next round? Is that teaching them that that's what we look for in MCs? Because they might not know. People who are casual viewers of this, they might not know what makes a rapper good. They're like, I have no idea about hip hop. I'm curious about this world. Let me see it. Right? They turn it
What
on,
they
and they come away with this impression that that's what's hot.
do you think that they were looking for people who could make a hit versus people who could just spit?
Either way, the people that they chose couldn't do either. So let me tell you. So I actually wrote down. This was the round before the last rounds, right? The penultimate show, if you wish. And
Mm.
they made the rappers guest verse on an R&B song, right? They had to do a 16 on an R&B song. Now, I actually wrote down lyrics. This is what really upset me. I wrote down lyrics from these two verses. You tell me who should have won.
Uh-oh.
All
All
right.
right.
This is the first verse. If I call right now, I'll tell you how I'm feeling. Coping. This pain painted, but I'm healing. No steel, I move steel, but I'm still in the place. You spilled me here, feeling misunderstood. I've been here, no fear, building up a resume. I sit here, not for attention, to lose tension, but only for a minute. I reveal more limits the more I come visit. If you call right now and tell me to come see, my integrity is killing me. Still, I repeat. All right, that's an excerpt from the first verse. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Here's the second verse. You tell me which one you think is better lyrically. I don't dance, but I'll dance for you. I'll do my little one too. Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to figure, is you worth it? I don't got no moves, but I'm a killer with these verses. Hey, who the hardest with the flow? Dre TL, ho. Who be rocking every show? Dre TL, ho. Who they want to know? Dre TL, ho. Who got the rhythm and the flow? Dre TL, ho. Yeah, I'm the man like that. I really be rocking crowds. I got fans like that. Nick Cannon with the drum. I got bands like that. I'd be really making moves, but I don't dance like that. Which verse was better?
Well, the second one you delivered it better. The second one is more it's more pop mainstream pop type of sound. The first one was a little bit more communicating a message
Right.
about the situation, how they felt and whatnot. And they were more, it was a little bit more heartfelt, where the other one was more like stunting on whoever it was they were talking to. I
But those
wasn't,
lyrics are so trash. Like you couldn't write worse lyrics if you tried.
I'm sure you could.
You could
I
write
didn't
worse
really, I
lyrics.
wasn't, yeah.
You could do worse than this. I don't dance, but I'll dance for you. I'll do my little one too. You could write worse lyrics than
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Come on.
I could write some garbage if I wanted
You
to.
could go worse. Marginally, it doesn't get much worse than that. Like a third grader could have written better. You don't think a third grader could have written a better verse than that?
Potentially, potentially.
So this is what I'm saying. And by the way, you said it was delivered better. I mean, it's simpler, and this one, I believe, the judges said to this contestant that they were impressed that he delivered it on beat because it's the first time on the show he really was able to stay on beat.
Wow.
Maybe he had to make his lyrics even as simplistic as possible just to be able to keep the beat. But he was the one who won the whole thing, the whole show. This guy, the guy who they
Wow.
said couldn't even stay on beat for most of the show.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he won $250,000. Now, if you are again an outsider looking in, right? Anyone turning on Netflix, oh, cool, hip hop. I'm not really, into hip hop. Would want to know more about it. And you see, this is the guy who wins the whole thing. They're saying the whole time they're like 100,000 rappers across the country or across the world, whatever it was. And we narrowed it down to y'all, and this is the guy. This is the guy who won. Out of 100,000 people, he was number one. I don't dance, but I'll dance for you. What does that say about hip hop?
Well, it says it can say a few things, depending on how you're looking at it, you know. I think it's part of that crossroads that we've got, right? Where some people are looking for lyricism, they're looking for the storytelling, they're looking for the foundational type of stuff, and then some of the newer generation is looking for the vibes, they're looking for the feeling, they're looking for what's gonna flow and bounce, regardless if there's substance or not.
You're being way too charitable, in my opinion. I told him if I'm going out like this. Real talk. Everything I've been through hard. I might not got a two step, but I got 16 bars. I mean, this is embarrassing. This is not embarrassing,
It's not the choice that I would have made, but yeah.
and it's not the choice that the internet would have made either. Because if you go on Reddit, there are many people who are upset by this. And we were talking about the Spotify numbers. By the way, shout out to Jay Taj. He's the guy who did come in second place. I think it was, well, I don't know if it was second. I think they just narrowed down to four people and they picked a winner, but he was one of the finalists. He's the guy from that other verse, and he's also the one that everybody said should have won this.
Hmm.
If you look at his Spotify, it's kind of crazy. Well, let's see if it changed recently. I went on Spotify right after this show aired, and he had so many more listeners than the winner, so many more, and everyone was
That's
saying
good.
it's an embarrassment that they chose this guy to win. To me, this makes a mockery of hip hop. This makes people think hip hop is all about garbage lyricism. Like, so you see people who don't know about hip hop and they say that they're not really poets. It's all garbage. It's all
Right,
nonsense, right?
right,
This kind
right,
of reinforces that stereotype to me. You know what I mean? This is not poetic. This is not lyricism. Now I get it.
right.
It's a 16 on an R&B song. You're not looking for the most lyrical bars ever. Even the other guy didn't have the most lyrical bars ever. But like you said, there was more substance to it. It was more artistic. It wasn't an embarrassment. Like this, to me,
Right.
this is worse than an SNL level parody of hip hop. You know what I mean? Like this is someone making fun of hip hop who would rap like this.
So this is the what's her name? The Australian breakdancer. Uh,
Kinda,
this is
kinda,
like that. This is like that for you?
kinda. Although
I
I would say the
might have
Australian
to.
breakdancer had a little bit more authenticity.
Oh,
Uh,
stop. There's no way. There's no way. I'm gonna have to watch that. I'm gonna have to watch this episode now.
now
Because there's
listen, Dre TL is the guy who won. Obviously, Dre TL. Uh, he did have a bit of a compelling story, right? So I didn't dislike him as a person. I didn't think
right.
he wasn't sympathetic. No, like he was one. His mom was locked up, and he never traveled. We just talked about flying. He had never been on a plane before in his life prior to the show
Mm,
because the show was based in Atlanta. He was
right.
from Atlanta, right? But they flew to Detroit for that battle episode.
Right.
That was the first time he ever left, I guess, Atlanta, or at least was on a plane in his life. So
Right.
things like that, and like, okay, this is cool, right? Like I guess in a sense, it made him the underdog that you wanted to cheer for. But at a
Right.
certain point, come on, this is an MC show, and the
Right.
guy, by the judge's admission, couldn't even stay on beat for most of the show. How is he the best out of 100,000 contestants?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's
That's
crazy. It's absolutely sickening. 96,000
it's
listeners.
wait, would you say it's ludicrous?
Yeah, and you know what? I would be very curious as to whom these judges picked, or were they told they had to pick Dre TL? Do you think Ludacris actually sat there? Because again, he was given good feedback week after week, and he showed he knew his stuff when it came to hip hop. I will listen to him. Like if you wanted to know, what does someone who really knows hip hop look for? Listen to Ludacris, right? He had a good breakdown almost all the time. So, with that being said, would he have chosen Dre TL in the end? I kind of find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
I know he
Uh,
might be biased towards Atlanta, but even so. Okay, so I just want to see 96,000 listeners for the winner, the guy who should have won, the people's champion, the champion in all of our hearts,
oh, snap.
Jay Taj, 227,000 listeners. Okay, so he still has more than twice as many listeners as Dre T.O. Because how is the guy who can't even keep the beat going to be able to put out hit records? And you said it's all about the vibe. Okay, my understanding is they could at least rap on beat if they had vibe.
This is hilarious because I'm wondering if this is you. Because while you're talking there, I went to look up this guy's page to see like if I recognize him from the Eminem episode that I watched, but I don't.
Yeah.
But the second comment, the the second comment on here is he was constantly off beat and he won. It's literally called rhythm and flow, and for them to constantly remind him that and he still won is wild. But I'm happy he's still in school.
That was not me, but you see, I'm not the only person feeling this way, obviously.
Apparently, apparently that's funny. That I'm gonna have to watch the episode. So,
Do you think,
uh,
and you know what, you just made an interesting point there because I saw this posited as well, that he was chosen as clickbait, basically, to piss off people, to get this discussion going, so more people will watch the show to see how bad he really was. This would be like the equivalent of William Hung winning American Idol.
hey man, don't hate on Hung. The Hung hype was real, bro.
I mean, had no business winning a competition, though.
He didn't win.
Exactly. But it would have been
Yeah.
like if he won, is my point. You know what I mean?
So
It,
he did get a record deal though, so that was kind of crazy.
he put out a Christmas album, right?
Yeah.
So
So
this, yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
wow, someone put on here he's the best rapper out of the A since Andre 3000.
That's obviously satire.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna have to listen to it, check it out, and see what it's about. So, oh snap! There's breaking news right now.
What's up?
Just coming across right now. Apparently, Mitch McConnell, um, Mitch McConnell falls during the Senate Republican lunch,
Whoa.
and so he's dealing with. So he's recovering from minor injuries right now. He just fell.
You you overhyped that.
I overhyped it.
You're like, we got breaking news coming across the wire right now. He fell, minor injuries. Okay. That's breaking
But
news.
it is though. Like we've already seen twice where he just freezes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He just has no response, nothing. He just freezes. How he's still in office and why he's not been out is beyond me. But for this to be yet another thing that's happened, it's clear that he needs to retire. It's very clear he needs to retire. And although I think he should have retired a long time ago, I wonder if he might be a slight safeguard against complete MAGA.
Well, I just saw something on my Reddit.
But he's still alive. It's
Okay.
not. I guess it sounded like it sounded like he was dead or something.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was gonna be something like he died or he announced something crazy, but not that he just kind of had minor scrapes on his elbow or whatever.
No,
Uh,
he fell. Come
yeah.
on.
So I was actually looking for my comment because as you were speaking about that, more comments, more uh, notifications were coming through on this rhythm and flow fiasco. I actually made the prediction that next season they were going to go out of their way to pick the best MC because of this backlash. So if there is a next season, right, maybe we'll see a better rapper emerge.
Hmm.
I also had a comment. I did comment on one of these threads here. You can follow us at Nuance Show on Reddit as well.
Hmm.
But they were talking about Lotto. I think the thread was about how they. Here we go. The thread was about how they don't like Lotto anymore. Before the show, they said they thought she was so gorgeous and loved her music, but now they find her insufferable. They said she's so obnoxious and she's not very smart at all. I actually dread when it's her turn to talk, says this commenter.
Jesus,
Uh,
that's
so my reaction was the opposite, but I came into it not knowing about her, and I was like, "Oh,
right.
okay, just, she's not insufferable." We mentioned Cardi B being a judge on the last season. You compare that,
Right.
and I like Lotto more as a person, right? So that certainly came through. But what I had said
I don't
here is,
know. I
I
don't know
said,
a lot about Lotto.
yeah.
I don't
So
know
here's
anything
what I did
really.
find out about her. She was on another rap competition show called The Rap Game, which you can watch on Amazon Prime. I haven't watched it, but people mentioned that
He
that's how
won
she
that, right?
won it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
apparently, from what they were saying, she came off a lot different on that show than here. They said now, I guess the way she talks now, she tries to sound a certain way. They said she came off as uh,
Hmm.
more educated, I guess you would say, when she was a
Wow.
contestant on there, and now she acts like she's ignorant. That's what people were saying. So I didn't
Wow.
necessarily get that, but I didn't watch her entire progression, so I don't know what she was like before. But
Okay.
what I did say here was I didn't really know anything about her, but I just assumed she was one of those new MCs who couldn't spit. I still don't know her music, but on the show she came off as likable and attractive. But I will say that her seeming to favor Dre TL to the extent that she did over the obviously superior J Taj reaffirmed my belief that she probably can't rap.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it doesn't make me want to check out her music. You know what I mean? If she's championing someone, like if that if that's considered like mind blowing rapping to her, like, oh, I can't believe you did that. Here's $250,000. That doesn't quite inspire me to go out there and listen to what she has to say.
Right. Got you.
You know?
Well, all I do, like I said, I only saw that one episode, and there was that moment where Eminem, in the middle of the deliberation, turned to her and said, "I love you, by the way. You're incredible."
Well, Royce also said that the D is a big market, meaning Detroit is a big market for Lotto, that she does well out there. And she said, yeah, absolutely. She crushes it in Detroit.
Well, I'm gonna leave that alone.
Well, listen, Wait, hold up, Josh. Let me pop my ish. I told him if I'm going out, I'm going out. See, now here's the thing. He rhymed pop with out, but he said ot, right? Wait, hold up, Josh. Let me pop my ish. I told him if I'm going ot, I'm going ot like this. Bars.
Who was that?
That's straight TL.
Oh, okay.
That's the same verse.
Oh, okay,
I'm
okay.
just saying when people you see these haters say that, you know what I mean? Like it takes no skill, no talent to rap. This
I
just
feel you.
reinforces that. You know what I mean? Like, can we do better? Can we try to do a little bit better than this? It's
I feel you.
2024. It's about to be 2025. Can we just do
Well,
better? Can we be better? Really?
right. Well, I think whatchamacallit, it did just that. If you're looking for someone to do better, who was
I'm
the
talking about on Netflix. Rubber Chicken of the
right?
Week. Anyone who supported Dre TL to win this gets the damn Rubber Chicken of the Week.
All right, give him the rubber chicken of the week, and so that we don't so you don't just leave it on a hater note.
Yeah.
Check
Not a hater.
out
We're being real.
check out Doechii.
Okay.
She's another female rapper. She just did a Tiny Desk concert with NPR. She's got everything that you're looking for, like lyricism. She's got personality in there. She just surprised the heck out of a lot of people that she's been the
Okay.
buzz for the last week.
Yeah.
She's got storytelling. The choreography was all good. Like there's a lot there to like as far as being able to control the crowd and the stage and being an MC.
And yet, if she was on the show, she would have been sent home in week three, probably. And Dre TL, if I'm going out,
We're
I'm going
supposed to
out
be
like
leaving
this.
on a high note, on a positive note.
What I'm saying is, granted, there are artists out there. I'm here, you're here. There are artists out there who are doing dope stuff, like who are, you know what I mean, who are good MCs. But
Right.
I'm talking about when you put on Netflix and
Yeah, I
you
got
look
you.
at, you know what I'm saying? Like you're a casual fan, you're not a hip hop head. If you're a hip hop
Right,
head, it's easier to dismiss this as, oh yeah, this is the nonsense again. But
right, right,
if you're a casual, right, you're watching it for the first time, like I want to see what hip hop is about. I never really gave it a chance. But if you were that guy, I never really
right,
gave
right,
hip hop a chance. But you know what? It's on Netflix. I'm a Netflix head. I'm gonna check this out. I'm gonna check this show out to see what hip hop is
right.
really all about. Dre
Well,
TL,
after you do that,
and
go
he
check
wins.
out go
But
check
they're
out
not going to do
Doechii.
that. They're not going to get that far. They're going to turn
I
it off
hope
and say, "I was right. Hip hop is trash." That's what they're going to say. You know what I mean? Like they can say
okay.
anyone can do this. This is crazy.
Okay.
This is
So,
crazy.
yeah.
So yeah, no, I
All
take
right.
back what I said last week about it being authentic. Like I said, it's still an entertaining show to watch. But please, if you're going to watch it realizing they're putting the wrong people through.
Okay.
So, all right, I'm gonna stop before I get high blood pressure on this.
Yeah, you're gonna pop a vein or something.
Yeah, yeah. So we want to talk about the manhunt, which apparently came to a close
Yes.
regarding the United Healthcare CEO who was murdered. Now,
Right.
um, the guy's name is very Italian sounding, which I don't like. It makes Italians look bad. Uh, Luigi Mangione.
I think that's what it is.
Yes.
So
Suspect
let's
at
be
this point, right?
clear.
Innocent until proven guilty. So we have to say that.
Right. Let's be clear. The person that was killed was the United Healthcare CEO, not the CEO of United Health Group, who
Mhm.
is above that. United Healthcare is one of the companies that's under the group.
Right.
So some people were getting that confused. That CEO is still very much alive, and people aren't happy with his response to the shooting. But yeah, so United Healthcare CEO.
Yes. So he, I don't know. I guess they found a manifesto of sorts or some kind of statement that he had prepared. There's a lot of weird stuff surrounding this at this point. Some
Right.
people are saying, why did he go through such great lengths to not get caught initially? He was on the run for almost a whole week and then was just chilling at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania and just allowing himself to be caught and had all the evidence of the crime on him at that still like what it almost seemed like at
Yeah.
that point he wanted to be caught, but then initially he didn't want to be caught. And then there was, I guess, more speculation of what was he planning on striking again? Like what was his deal? Like what is his whole angle here?
Right. Yeah, I think that I mean that's obviously going to come out more in the investigation here. He did have that manifesto where he had issue with corporate America. And I think to me, that's where the discussion is around this. He killed somebody, that happens. People do things
That
and whatnot.
happened.
I mean, like as far as like what's different about this is
Right,
the reaction to him killing the CEO of United Healthcare is that a lot of people seem to be holding him up as some sort of a hero.
right,
And people were saying that, they were not gonna if they even if they saw him, they wouldn't snitch, they wouldn't rat him out or anything. And this really kind of highlights this interplay between not just specifically corporate America and the public, but the healthcare industry. Because people are coming out saying like basically that guy kind of deserves that because they keep denying people's claims that are life-saving care and they're saying this guy might have killed one person, but that CEO and their policies have killed millions over time, and nobody is held accountable or talks about it.
right. And a lot of people who are saying stuff like that, I think, need their brains examined as well. I mean, what a horrible way to approach the conversation surrounding someone being murdered. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Talk about policy, and sure, there are very legitimate gripes about the healthcare industry, right? And whether it even should
yes,
be a for-profit industry. And you can look at healthcare outcomes in the U.S. versus other countries and compare and contrast the systems, and debate
right,
policy all day long. And we should do that. That's healthy. Um,
right.
3D printing a ghost gun and shooting someone is not healthy. Like, that's not the productive way to go about it. And anyone saying
It's
that that's heroic, I think is part of the problem.
well, I think that's certainly the way to look at it. However, I can see where, people are getting more and more fed up, especially if you've lost someone and
Mhm.
it's because they've decided to deny claims against the doctor's orders. And people are like, at what point do we strike back, or at what point do we have some sort of retribution here?
You do it
Um,
politically, though. If you resort
but
to
does it
violence,
work? I'm not saying go kill
if you
him. I'm
resort,
saying,
if
but
you
does
resort
that
to
work?
violence, you automatically lost the debate. You automatically lost. Game over. Done. You're worse than them. You know what I mean? Like you're a scumbag at that point. So
I
the
I, I know
you don't even have.
that's
You know what I mean? Like you lost all your moral high ground. Like that's it. Go
my
around.
question is, does
So
that work though? Does it work?
does
This is where I
politics
think
work?
this is where I think we're having an issue in modern society is that playing by those rules, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm saying, does it work when people that are in these positions of power are able to exploit them and willing to exploit them to their advantage, and they have the power to make sure they come out on top. So even if you follow the proper channels,
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily work.
It's not supposed to necessarily work. It's not supposed to be guaranteed. There are no guarantees in life.
Yeah, but at what point do you say, I've taken enough L's as a society, we've taken enough L's,
And
we're
so
going to strike
taking
back?
enough L's to a solution is to start murdering people. That's never the answer.
I'm just saying, at what point, where's the tipping point? There will be a tipping point at
There
some
is
point.
not
There's always a tipping point.
to where that's justifiable.
There's always not saying justifiable. I'm saying there's always a tipping point. There
Well,
is for
yeah,
everything. There's always,
everyone has a tipping point when it comes to different things. And obviously, this guy's tipping point was reached. Does that
I'm
make
saying
does
that's
that
how we
make
get
it
into wars.
justifiable, or does that make him heroic? Certainly not.
Yeah, that's not what I'm arguing that it makes them heroic. I'm saying, but the are we at that point in society that this is going to maybe happen again, or people are because if you've got the society holding him up as a hero, then maybe some of the other
You're right, but I
gripes,
wouldn't say
some of the
society is
other
holding him
gripes.
up as a hero. I
Oh,
wouldn't say that.
okay, let's say a big portion
I would
of the
say
talk.
certain nut jobs are. Yeah,
I
certain
think
nut
there's
jobs
more
are.
than that. I think there's more than that. And if certain people are holding this image that what he did wasn't as bad as what we should say it is because it is murder,
No, there
he
yes, there are
potentially.
people. I've seen it. There are people saying that it's justified, like that
But yeah, so are we
it's
potentially at a
despicable.
point where there might be more? Because people,
Of
we
course,
are
there could be.
obviously,
How often do we have school shootings? We have all kinds of sick things going on in our society. Of course, we
oh
can
no,
say
absolutely, absolutely. But as far as taking this out on corporations,
that.
right? People are stretched very thin. We got politics is crazy bias. We've got high cost of living. We've got all this stuff, and people are just simply exhausted. And some of these ills that one thing people on the far left and the far right can agree upon is the corporate tomfoolery that's going on and how they're being used by the corporate systems. And so if this many people are saying that this isn't that bad, could this potentially be the next phase? We've seen this type of thing happen. I mean, that's how wars start. We saw that in that what happened with Marie Antoinette and those types of folks, where the poor people eventually were like, listen, this is the tipping point. We're going to eat the rich, basically, at this point.
I think it's indicative of the fact that we need better mental health care in this country, right?
I mean,
The people who are
I
saying
think that's a cop out.
they need to get their heads checked, right? People who are
I
saying
think that's a cop out.
it's not a cop out. It's a very, I'm not being funny. I'm being serious. I
No,
think,
I know you are.
yeah, we need better mental health care. I think people who are reacting this way need to get their heads checked. They need to be on better medications.
I think it's a cop out to just to relegate it to mental health and ignore the frustration that people may be feeling
Yeah,
if they're feeling at this point.
you can't entertain that discussion when they're saying that murdering a man who's just doing his job is justified. You can't. There's no discussion to be had there. You know what I mean? Like if you're debating the policy, yes, that is a debate you can have, a healthy discussion. But if your stance is we should go out and murder people in the streets, no, you lose the ability to even have a meaningful discussion. Right now, it's a matter of you should probably get your heads checked or maybe be restrained. Maybe you should be in Bellevue before you hurt somebody.
And there's no discussion on should they stop doing that to people?
Should the murderer stop murdering?
No. Should for example, this in this case here, the United Healthcare denying claims, life-saving and life-affirming care for people that pay their premiums. And
Right.
these are their policies because they're putting profit over people. And
That
so
is
people are dying, they're
that's a
killing
worthwhile
people.
that
Wait,
is a
they're
worthwhile
killing
discussion.
people.
That's a
Let's not
worthwhile
say
discussion.
dying. People, they're killing people because they want to
Not
put
the
their
same.
profit over.
Right, but it's not the same. It's not the same as actually taking a gun and shooting somebody. Those are not
Is it
more
not
equivalent.
though? Is it
It is not.
not though?
It is not.
He's just
That's
doing
a
it with a
discussion
pen versus doing it with a gun. What's the difference?
because you said it's a business trying to maximize their profit. So the whole issue is that we have a
So
for-profit healthcare system, and that in itself is troublesome, and that needs to be addressed. That's a different discussion from should we start printing guns and shooting people on the street?
no, I'm saying, but is it really that much different though?
Yes,
If you take a gun and go shoot the guy in the
yeah.
street, or you sign off on this paper knowing that denying this health care is going to kill them, it's the same thing as killing the people.
You're saying that it's equivalent as taking a gun and shooting people on the street?
I think it's very similar, yes.
No, absolutely
It
not.
is. If you are denying their health care, you're
You're
denying the
saying that's
doctor
not
says
medically. You're saying it's not medically necessary.
says who?
Says they're doctors. What do you mean? Says who?
No, no, they deny all the time. They deny.
They have independent doctors. Now, yes, you can argue that they're not truly independent because they get paid by the insurance companies or whatever, but they're still issuing reports saying that this treatment was not medically necessary. Now, you can debate that, and you can say you should not have denied that claim. You could even take it to court, right? As many people do. Now, many people
And
don't have the
people
money
are
to. That's also a
dying.
problem. There are so many problems in the system. Yes, right. And you're not going to find me defending the merits of the system, but that's a different discussion from is it justified to murder people?
Well, I'm saying that they're similar. There's still murder.
It's
These
not murder.
healthcare, when you're denying
You can't be a
care
serious
or
person and call that
surgeries,
murder and call healthcare the healthcare system we have murder. That's not a
yeah,
serious
it can be.
conversation.
It's a very serious conversation. It is.
You can't be a serious person and say it's murder when they're issuing reports saying that it's not medically necessary. You could disagree. You could say that it is
If your
medically
doctor says you need this surgery,
that's their
and then this,
doctor, but they have
if
other
your
doctors.
doctor, no, if
Right.
your doctor says you need this surgery,
Right.
and then your health care decides, well, we're not going to cover that.
Because they have
Because
another
they don't,
doctor because another doctor says that it's not medically necessary. Now you have a difference of opinion between two doctors.
but he's not your doctor.
Right. It's a different doctor. Your doctor
Right.
might want all
So he
kinds
has
of
no
stuff.
business in this. He has no business in this.
That's how the industry works. They have to determine if it's medically necessary to see if it gets covered or not. That's just how the
So
system
what they're
is set up.
doing is they're trying to find a way to deny you the care that your doctor
I
is
agree
telling you
that
that you
yes, I
need,
agree that
and people are dying because of it.
they over deny. Right. And the fact that the system is set up to be for profit is a problem because that leads to certain outcomes like that. But if you're going to equate that to taking a gun and shooting people on the street who weren't even sick, I mean, they had nothing to do with it.
He's the CEO. He was these policies are policies either he had part in enforcing,
No,
creating, or whatnot. I think there's an
no,
argument there.
nothing, nothing. No, that's
There's
crazy.
an
That's
equivalence
just that's
there.
just crazy talk to say
I
to
don't
make that
think
leap,
so.
to make that leap and say so. The answer is let's just start shooting employees. He's an employee, right? Let's
I
start
didn't
shooting
say I
employees.
didn't say that. I didn't say that we should make that leap and do that. I'm just saying that there is an equivalence here. I'm not saying that we should do that, but we need to have this serious talk about
And
how many people
yes,
are dying
I agree.
because of this.
And the answer is let's not shoot people in the street. That makes more people die.
No, the answer, well, that's part of the answer, but the answer is also to hold them accountable for the deaths that they're causing.
Again, a meaningful discussion about the system, right? That's different from encouraging violence on people in the street. Those
I'm not encouraging violence. You keep trying to say that. I've not encouraged any
no, because
violence.
you're saying at what point do we have the conversation? I think the conversation is ongoing and it's an important one in a country, but
But in
that's
the
different.
meantime, people are
You have to
dying.
separate that from this idea of celebrating murder. That should not never be justified.
I'm not saying we should be celebrating murder.
So the people who are doing that should not be taken seriously in this conversation. They should lose their ability to participate in the conversation
I'm saying that we should understand that type of frustration that's happening.
and understand the
Because if we
frustration.
don't,
Yes,
if
you
we
do not
don't, we're
understand.
going to have an
You
issue.
understand the frustration. Yes, you do not understand murdering people. You don't understand that frustration.
No, but we understand the what's you just moved. What's behind it? What's prompting it? We have
Yeah,
to look at that.
mental
If we
illness
don't
is
look
what's
at that,
prompting that. Mental illness. That's why I'm saying you have to look
mental
at this guy.
illness.
A normal guy who's frustrated with the system doesn't go out and do that. They just don't. They don't shoot people on the street. They don't do
I
that.
don't think it's mental illness. I think that's
It has
something.
to be.
I don't think it's
Look
completely
at this.
mental health.
Look at this dude's
I think it's
history. This
that's a
is a
cop
normal
out.
guy. You think that's just, you think that's a normal reaction to being
I
upset?
don't.
You think that's normal?
I'm saying that there is a point at which people are going to. There's a tipping point,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to be aware of when we're at that situation and what's causing those situations so that we don't cross these tipping points. And for this guy, yes, he could be a crazy guy, not debating that. But I'm saying for people to be so many people to be like, well, you know what? That's kind of justified. That means there's a feeling of
Right.
people being so close to a tipping point or being in that general area where this sounds like something that's reasonable to them. And that is something we need to pay attention to.
I agree, and we also need to call it for what it is, which is lunacy.
I don't see that just that absolves the whole argument of any sort of responsibility or accountability or any real recognition of where we're at. We've got to look at it. Now, the guy that
I agree to the extent that it does do that as it relates to this murder, this crime, right? In other words, I'm not willing to say this crime is justified. I'm not willing to do that.
right,
And so,
right. I'm not saying that
right,
either.
and so the people celebrating that, I'm saying are wrong. Objectively speaking, they're wrong. That's a
Right,
separate conversation from the system and what changes need to be made. That's a political debate. Yes, it's hard. Put your damn big boy pants on and have that debate. You know what I mean? The answer is
right.
we're never going to win in politics. We just lost an election, so here come the guns. That's not the answer. That's what the other side does. That's not what we do, or which we should aspire to do.
Right. I'm agreeing with that. I'm saying that we need to pay attention if that's where we're at. That we could be where we're at. Now, this could be a one-off,
Mm-hmm.
never see it again, but the shift into a society where a large number of people are applauding something like that, to
It's sick.
me says something that we need to pay attention to.
Yes, I agree, but I'm still adding this in there. It says that we need to pay attention to how damn sick a big segment of our society
Yeah.
is becoming. And by the way, many of the people saying that, we can tie this to the autopsy episode that we did, why the Democrats just lost nationally. This kind of attitude is a big part of the reason why, right?
I
Because
don't think no, that's no.
perverse sickness that has infested our side of the political aisle. You got to call a spade.
No, this is not. No, see, this is not the our side of the political aisle. This is above the around the board. It's not just a
See,
Democrats that are saying it.
that's a cop out. See, that's a cop out. What you just said. Look at the
What?
people who are applauding this on social media and look at their political leanings. I'm not saying it's going to be 100%. Who do you think? Which side do you think they fall more on?
I
Left
think it's even across the board.
No, it is not. Let's no. We should do a survey on this, an actual study on this, a scientific study on this. I,
It's even across. It's. I
it is
think
not.
this
People
is something
applauding
that
this.
everybody.
People applauding this. Well,
You
they're
think
rather.
it's Democrats?
I
You
think
think
it's.
it's liberals and
I think it's
Democrats?
mostly people on the far left. Yes.
Nah,
Yep.
nah. This
Yep.
is crazy. It's no, that's lunacy. This is
No,
evil. This is
it
equal
is not
among.
equal. I
This
think
is equal among other
you're deluding
people.
yourself if you believe it's equal.
Yeah, this is equal among the people. It's a to me it's a statement. It's a statement about society and how people are stretched thin, and it's something that we need to pay attention to so that we can correct, so that we don't have other incidents like this. So at some point,
That's
whatever
to me
the
that
weak
sounds
link.
yeah. To me that just sounds like giving it to terrorists. That's all you're doing. You're
What?
saying yeah. You're saying that so to stop more sick, uh, non-justified murders, we should give in to the sickos' demands.
What?
That's what you just said, essentially.
That's not what I said at all.
You said we
That's
need
not,
to be making. So correct me if I'm wrong. You said we need to be making changes to prevent things like this from happening again.
I think we need to recognize that people on that are upset about this and or not upset, but that they're supportive of this, or even not even supportive, maybe just even willing to turn a blind eye to someone that's just committed cold-blooded murder, that that says something about how people are feeling about the situation in society. And we need to acknowledge that, and we need to be able to adjust and work with that. Because otherwise, we might have other people that do this, or other people that just hold apathy towards things like this happening. It's obviously at one of those situations where it's like, okay, maybe there's something that we need to address here. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's justified. I'm not saying we should go out there and just start slaughtering the rich.
But yeah, I've always agreed that we needed to do something about that system. But to me, that's an entirely separate discussion from people applauding murder. And the answer shouldn't be, oh, because people are happy that murders are committed now, we need to start paying attention to the issue. We always should have been paying attention to the issue first of all. But
We should have.
our mentality shouldn't be, oh, because people are happy about murder and we might think more murders are going to happen. Now we need to take this discussion seriously.
No, we should have been doing it before, but it's like things like this happen, and then you start to realize that you might be at a tipping point. You know, most people will ignore things until it gets to
By the way,
the crisis situation,
look at
even
the
if we
numbers.
knew
This
before time.
also this is why scientific study on this is necessary
Sure,
because we've talked about how the most radical people are the loudest online.
sure.
And I think this is another case of that. I don't think most of society, by the numbers, is applauding murder. I really don't think so. Do a poll, right? A natural scientific study. Uh,
Sure.
were you happy to hear about this? Do you think this is justified? Do you want to see more of these murders? I don't think people are going to say yes to that. I don't think so.
I don't think people would either, but I
By and
think that
large. I think the people who are celebrating this online, number one, there's a lot of trolls out there, and number two, they
sure.
are the most radicalized, loudest voices in the conversation. You know, what I mean, I don't think it
Not
represents the
disagree.
majority opinion. So
Not
again, that's why
disagree.
I'm saying like we need to be careful with saying like because of this uprising you see on Twitter or Bluesky or whatever that that this
Blue sky.
represents something serious about society and it shows that we've reached our tipping point and now things need to be no our serious
I think it's an
conversations
indication.
need to have to continue to happen. At the same time, we need to be able to cast aside right and say the people who are celebrating murder are not serious participants in this conversation, right? We need to be able to
I
walk.
think it's an indication. I think it's an indication that needs to be taken seriously. That's what I think it is.
I see. I disagree with that. I wouldn't go that far. I would say it needs to be taken seriously, regardless. I don't think that the sickos
Sure.
celebrating murder are a reason why we have to start taking policy seriously. I don't think there's.
I disagree. I have to disagree there. And adjacent to this, similar to this, there was a the Blue Cross Blue Shield, I believe covering New York and two other states, had announced their policy that they were going to limit the time for which they would pay for anesthesia during surgery. So if their policy said you only get 30 minutes of anesthesia and your surgery is 3 hours, then so be it. And you know, To me, that's unconscionable. If someone's in surgery and they're covering surgery, you can't say, "Oh, well, we think you only deserve 30 minutes when, you know, your surgery is going to be take as long as it takes." They have walked back their policy after this, but this is the type of thing that shows that they really have no care or feeling for the people, and this is the type of thing that can actually get people killed because they need this type of surgery.
Right. But giving in to people and saying, well, we're going to start making changes, or taking these discussions more seriously because there are murderous sickos out there, that's not productive. All that's doing is encouraging more violence.
I don't think so. I think it's more no, he should go to jail. He should go to prison. He should be held accountable for murder. He should be called a murderer. I'm not saying anything
By the
other
way, he
than
should be
that.
called a thug, right? And that's a racial thing. Why is it then when it's
Why
not a
would we
black
call
guy?
him a thug? He's a murderer. He murdered that guy in cold blood.
That's what I'm saying. That he should be called a thug for. How come
Wow.
the word thug and criminal even only seems to get used when it's a black person or a person of color? When it's
Well, you can call him thug and criminal too. All of
Luigi,
that.
you know what I mean? And even the mental health aspect, and maybe I'm guilty of this myself because I just had mental health challenges. But then again, I'm not one who plays into that to the racial divide on that, because I always say that people who go out there and do things like this are not normal people, and a normal person wouldn't react that way. But in the media, you do see the mental health aspect overplayed when the
Yeah,
subject
I agree.
is
I agree. It's
or seen as white or European or whatever. So that's something to be mindful of as well. But
absolutely.
from my perspective, though, and I'm not saying this as a lawyer, because there's a legal definition of what categorizes or what constitutes not guilty by way of insanity. I'm not saying whether he does or doesn't qualify for that, but I'm saying, broadly speaking, people who go out and do things like this are not normal, well-adjusted people. That you have to be a little sick in the head to do something
I
like that.
don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all. Um, like I said, I don't disagree with that at all. My thing is purely societal observation wise. Um, so hopefully there are no more like this. And this man is held accountable for what is his name, Luigi. He's held accountable for what he's done.
Right, if he indeed is the suspect, I have to say that as well.
If he is the suspect, that's yeah, we gotta make that clear too. If he is the suspect, though.
So we had a poll on this. We wanted to know if people would
Yes.
turn him in, because apparently it was an elderly employee of McDonald's who called the cops. See, I don't have good facial recognition skills. I don't think there's any way I would have been able to recognize the person from a photo,
Yeah.
from those photos, certainly.
Yeah.
You're in McDonald's now in Pennsylvania. By the way, over 200 miles, I believe, from New York City. We're not talking about the Philadelphia area, or
Right.
somewhere
Yeah.
close to the New York City metro area by New Jersey somewhere. No, we're talking about like deep into Pennsylvania. You wouldn't have expected him to be there. So
Yeah. Why would you even think that that's him that you're looking at?
right now, I understand maybe he was acting a little bit suspiciously. He had the mask, and he was maybe not trying to show his face to people. So maybe, but how would you recognize that as the guy from the photos? I don't know. I wouldn't have.
Right.
I don't think I would have been able to. But I know that I'm not good when it comes to detecting faces like that.
Right.
So
So
the poll question of the week for the people is: would you have turned in Luigi Mangione to collect the reward from law enforcement? Because I believe there was a $50,000 reward attached to this.
it's not a it's not a small reward.
It's not, and maybe that's why he shouldn't have been in McDonald's. Because I understand this guy had some money, right? They said he had some money on him. If
Oh,
you're
did
going
he?
into places like McDonald's, they're probably more likely to turn you in, because that money is life changing potentially for them. Maybe he should have been in
Yeah,
high end
absolutely.
restaurants where, if they're making a lot of money in tips, maybe I'm in like a very high end restaurant. Maybe that money wouldn't have been as meaningful to them.
Right. Yeah. There's not a lot about this guy that I know or that we know yet, and I know he was like an Ivy League grad.
Right,
So you would
University of
expect,
Pennsylvania.
yeah. So
Well, yeah,
yeah, I mean,
the whole thing is weird. It's weird. I thought from the beginning this wasn't a personal vendetta as much as someone upset with the system based on the MO, if you will.
right.
The fact that he wrote those words on the bullets, which were reminiscent of the book that came out about the healthcare industry. So
Right.
that seems to suggest it was more of a systemic thing than a personal thing. Even the way he looked in the surveillance video, he kind of looked kind of like smug, and it almost looked like he thought he was a martyr. He thought he was doing something good. He didn't look like someone
Right.
who was desperate and like had the hysteria of someone whose claim was denied, or who had a wife whose claim was denied. He didn't have that
Right.
kind of disposition to me. And I may not be an expert on it, but it was just my hunch by looking at all these different things. And then you had the fact that he took a bus apparently to the city. He rode a city bike, I think it was. He stayed in the hostel. Then he took a
Right.
cab and he took a bus out. Um, all this kind of seemed to suggest there was a political narrative here, right? It still kind of falls into the genre of uh, what's a polite way of saying it? Small dog energy. Let's take down the system type. You know what I mean? Um,
Well, we'll have to see when that comes out. I know
yeah.
in the reports he did have, I think he had a history of some sort of a back injury that prevented him from.
Recently, I think he had back surgery. They said.
So, I mean, I wonder if there's something related to that that pushed him over the edge. He was in these other things, or I don't know.
Quite,
We'll
yeah,
see.
right. Quite possibly medication that he had as a result. Maybe he got addicted to the medicine. Maybe
It could be a number of
drugs and
things.
messed with his head. Some people
Yeah.
even speculated roid rage. I don't know if roid rage leads people to behave like that. I know it's been associated with like flipping out on people, but does it make people plan these murders very meticulously in this way? I don't know.
Right.
That has been speculated by some. There are all kinds of opinions and thoughts, hypotheses out there. So, like you said, we'll have to see how this all plays out. Um,
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on the fact that he wrote parasites in his manifesto? There were some people who tried to make a big deal about that to suggest that
Oh.
he had intended on striking again because he wrote something like these parasites had it coming, and he pluralized the word parasite, right? Parasites with an S. And so some people were speculating that meant that he had intended to shoot more than one CEO, maybe. I wasn't sure that was entirely the case. It might have been, but I didn't read that much into the word parasites because I looked at it like an attack on the system. And so
Right.
by shooting
I
one
couldn't sound
CEO, he probably thought he was sticking it to everybody, not necessarily
right.
like he was going to kill a bunch of individual people. That was my initial read on it, but who knows? I just saw a lot of people really, really playing that card. Like, oh, he said parasites. That must mean he was going to strike again.
Right. I agree with your take. I think it's probably a general of the system. So we'll have to see how all this stuff comes out in court. The only question I do have outside of that is how did he know where to find this guy?
Well,
I
that
guess if you stalk somebody for that,
right,
you could do
right.
it,
And I
but
don't think that would be too difficult because there was a meeting that was happening at that hotel. It was like the shareholders
right.
meeting, conference, whatever.
Oh yeah, right. That's right.
It
Right.
would have
Makes
been
sense.
pretty publicly available. If, like you said, if you're trying to stalk someone, you can probably put the name into Google and find that kind of information.
Yeah.
So, all
So
right, I know you have to go pretty soon. Did you want to go over the poll from last week really quick? And then,
yeah, let's get into the poll from last week. So the poll from last week is in regards to the president, the current president. And I wish people would stop acting like Orange is president right now, because anyway. So let's go into it. The poll question for last week was, do you agree with President Biden's decision to pardon his son Hunter? Now, this was a controversial decision that a lot of people on both sides opposed. Democrats and Republicans both opposed because Biden at one point had said he would not step in to do this, and then he's come out and done it.
mhm.
So we had a pretty good turnout here, like 255 votes here. Um, 94% said yes, they agree with it. 66%
Wow,
said no.
94% said yes. That surprises me.
Really? Why does that surprise you?
Well, you just said that it was controversial. People on both sides disagreed with the decision, but here he's saying that 94% of the people, almost everyone,
Right.
agrees with the decision.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's true. I think, we saw a lot of politicians come out and say, "Oh, well, he shouldn't have done this and that." But a lot of people seem to understand And one of the comments here was obviously Hunter was railroaded because of who his dad is, and that's the definition of political persecution. It was pretty clear Republicans wanted to drive the guy to suicide. It's sickening how dirty they play, and it's only going to get worse.
That part about driving him to suicide, where does that come from?
I don't know. I've never heard that before. But the part about political persecution, to me, I think that was very evident. And I think once the new administration comes in, that's going to be something that we see at the forefront. And Trump himself has said he's not ruling out um, any revenge against any of his political opponents. He said it. We know he's very clear on this. I don't think, like personally, I've said under normal circumstances, I would disagree with Biden pardoning his son. Let the system play out. But I don't think he's going to be able to get a fair shake because it will be political persecution. So it makes sense. I think Fauci should be the next one getting pardoned at least.
I had heard that that might have been in the works. That not just Fauci, but a number of officials might be preemptively pardoned, just
I
based
think
on comments that have been made about political retribution.
I would look at the people who are also doing their jobs that were investigating Trump for his activities and the ones that took him to court. And I would be looking at all of them to try to find some way to protect them from what's coming. And that includes Republicans, as a lot of these several of these judges that ruled against him were Republican judges. And we know he's not opposed to turning on people who are supposedly in his on his side, but it's more his party or himself. So anyone who's going to be in his crosshairs, we might need to look at trying to mitigate the damage that they're going to receive. So a couple other comments here. One, President Biden is all too aware of what's coming. I don't blame him for trying to protect his son from being punished for taking consequences of his own actions. Someone else, I want him to do some preemptive pardons to cover the asses of people who were doing their jobs as they were sworn to do. Right.
But that's a bit of a different scenario, right? Because when it comes to Hunter, it's a little trickier.
Right, because he did commit crimes.
Right. Aside from the fact that it was his son, he is being pardoned for all federal crimes between like a 10 year, I think it was 2014, 2024, like a 10-year period. So
Right,
there is the crime that he seemed to have committed, which we talked about probably being politically prosecuted, right? Whether he did it or he
right.
didn't, it seems like they went after him because he was the president's son.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we see most people not actually being hit with this type of penalty or this type of prosecution, and so that
Right,
is arguably unfair. But nonetheless, if he did that crime, he's
right,
being pardoned for that. He's also being pardoned for other things that they may try to pin on him, right? So
right,
I think it's kind of like a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, right? You can see why
right.
it may leave a bad taste in one's mouth, given the fact that the president pardoned his own son for a crime that he apparently did commit. But there's a bigger piece to it as well.
Right, absolutely. We know, like I said, under normal circumstances, I would take that position that Biden himself had initially taken and saying like, he's not going to do it. I would agree that he shouldn't step in, but I think here the situation has changed, and you have to recognize that the situation has changed. We're in a different territory right now, and to me, it's disappointing that the Democrats that are vocally opposing this aren't recognizing what the situation is right now, what's coming. And to me, that's one of the reasons why Democrats are losing a lot of things because they're not adapting to what the reality is, what's happening right now.
Yeah, you see, it's funny because when I think about why they're losing, I think about the previous discussion more.
I
But
mean,
they're
there's a
literally
play. Look, I think there's
justifying
a play.
murder. They're
I
literally
wasn't
justifying
justifying
murder.
murder. I
They are.
wasn't
There are people
justifying.
doing that. There are. I've seen it on Blueski and all these different places.
Blue sky. I'm saying is that the Republicans are playing by a different rule book. We know this. And I'm not saying that Democrats need to stoop to their level, but they
But are
need to
they
adapt.
justifying murder?
But they need to adapt and do what they can do to deal with this because they're losing. We are losing left and right. And because they're not, they're
Mostly,
expecting MAGA
mostly
to play
left.
by the rules.
Mostly left.
Yeah, mostly left. They're expecting MAGA to play by the rules, and MAGA's like, we're not playing by the rules,
Right.
and so I think there needs to be some adapting in this
Yes,
situation.
adapting, yes. Murdering, no. Let's draw the line.
No, we don't want to
Let
do
draw
that.
the line shy of murder.
We don't want to do that. Only murder that should be done is murdering the mic, and that's
I was
it.
gonna say that, and Dre Teal ain't doing that. So sad state of affairs
So,
all around.
yeah. So this is
You give me the bottom line, and don't justify murder.
I did not justify murder. I say we need to recognize what's happening in the country. People are fed up, and it's not just the right, the left. People are fed up with what's going on. There's a lot of opposition happening. There's a lot of argument. There's a lot of not listening. People are drowning, and we need to recognize that there are going to be some issues that might arise, and we should do something, not just because we want to prevent that, but also because it's the right thing to do. And you know, that's where I think we need to be at right now. We need to recognize and acknowledge things.
And we need to recognize and acknowledge that Jay Taj got robbed on Rhythm and Flow.
Mm, mm,
People can find us everywhere things can be found in the world, right? We are,
pretty much.
yeah, we're available where podcasts are heard. So if you want to listen to us in podcast form, of course, on YouTube, Nuance with Mike Scala and Jay Carter, and on Instagram and Reddit at Nuance Show. So join the discussion. Let us know your thoughts on these topics and more. We want to do a show on the city of yes. And so I know a lot of people have been asking about that. It's very big in New York City these days. And
Mm.
so we will be talking about that as it moves through the city council. There were modifications made to it. We want to update people on that. So, as always, we thank you for tuning in and joining us. We've got work to do, and we will catch you next time.